Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to tell you the heartbreaking betrayal story of an old man that changed my life forever. I am a 36-year-old man, currently married for 4 years, and we don't have any children. My wife had gone to her friend's wedding last month, and ever since she returned, I've noticed a significant shift in her behavior towards me. This change has left me feeling anxious and somewhat guilty for suspecting her of something, even though I don't have any concrete evidence to justify my suspicions. However, the red flags were too glaring for me to simply ignore, especially after reading numerous accounts of infidelity online that felt eerily similar to my situation. To give a bit more background, the wedding was for a friend of my wife from her workplace. I was invited to attend as her plus one, but due to commitments at my job, I could not go. To be honest, my enthusiasm for attending the wedding was low from the start, as I do not share a close bond with this friend of hers. Despite our limited interactions, which were confined to a couple of occasions at work parties, my wife emphasized her close relationship with this friend and insisted it was important for her to attend the wedding. Upon her return, my wife's demeanor had taken a turn for the cold and distant, which was highly unusual and out of character for her. Concerned, I approached her to discuss what might be bothering her, to which she attributed her mood and behavior to the accumulation of work-related stress, exacerbated by her taking leaves for the wedding. While I tried to be understanding of her situation, the persistent coldness for over a month began to raise serious doubts in my mind. Additionally, our intimate life suffered greatly during this period, dwindling to just 2 instances initiated by me, which felt forced and uncomfortable. After these experiences, I refrained from initiating any further, sensing her reluctance. Despite multiple attempts to engage her in conversation about whatever might be on her mind, she remained closed off, refusing to share her thoughts or feelings. Driven by my growing frustration and suspicion, I resorted to snooping on her phone, yet found nothing that could be deemed suspicious. Her continuous gaslighting and evasive behavior only served to exacerbate my feelings of annoyance and confusion. It felt as though she was hiding something significant from me, but I was at a loss on how to confront the situation head on. I had tried everything within my means, from initiating conversations to giving her space, ignoring the issues at hand, and even checking her devices for any clues. In an update, I shared that I had sought advice from this community, where some suggested that perhaps she was harboring anger towards me for some reason. Despite previously addressing the issue multiple times without any resolution, I decided to once again confront her, asking if she was upset with me for any specific reason, including possibly my absence at the wedding. She denied being upset, attributing her strange behavior to nothing more than fatigue and stress from work. Despite this, her mood swings persisted, with brief periods where things seemed to normalize before reverting to the initial coldness. My friend suggested that this phase might pass with time, leading me to shift my focus towards my work and personal well-being in hopes of moving past this issue. However, a significant revelation came about during her office's annual function, an event I had attended with her every year. This year, however, she seemed unusually hesitant to bring me along. She claimed we had not received an invitation, but upon discovering the email, it was clear it had been sent weeks prior. Her reluctance to attend, coupled with her attempts to find excuses to avoid the event altogether, raised my suspicions even further. However, her hesitance to attend the party raised my suspicions, prompting me to insist that we go. Initially, everything seemed fine at the party. Everyone was friendly, and there were no obvious signs of trouble. But I noticed my wife was unusually guarded and didn't seem to be enjoying herself. This was out of character for her, as she typically mingles freely with senior company officials, while I chat with her colleagues and juniors. Strangely, she stuck by my side the whole time, not leaving me alone with anyone. A couple whose wedding we missed, including my wife's friend and her husband, also attended the party. I took the opportunity to apologize for not being able to make it to their wedding. They seemed understanding and everything appeared normal. However, things took an unexpected turn when the husband got drunk and started sharing inappropriate comments about my wife's behavior at their wedding. He described her as looking stunning and dancing provocatively, even revealing that my best man had asked for her number. His wife dismissed his comments, attributing them to his drunken state and denying that anything inappropriate had happened at the wedding. What bothered me most was my wife's behavior after returning from the wedding. She intervened multiple times when her colleague's husband spoke about her behavior, diverting the conversation. Finally, she abruptly dragged her friend and her husband away from the conversation. It was evident to everyone present, not just me, that something was amiss. Colleagues and spouses exchanged knowing looks, implying they understood what was happening. Feeling embarrassed, I excused myself from the situation. Shortly afterward, I saw my wife's friend leaving the party with her husband, who was nearly unconscious from drinking. My wife approached me as if nothing had happened. When I questioned her about her friend's husband's comments, she brushed them off, claiming he was too drunk to be taken seriously. This struck me as dishonest, especially considering she had also been drinking. The next day, my wife attempted to avoid me, but I couldn't tolerate her avoidance any longer. Convinced she had cheated at the wedding, I confronted her and demanded she confess. When she tried to grab her phone to prevent me from seeing her messages, I managed to open a conversation with her friend. In it, she scolded her friend's husband for revealing what had happened. Despite her attempts to lie her way out of it, she eventually admitted to cheating, claiming it was a one-time thing fueled by alcohol and her inability to resist advances from a groomsman. This confession enraged me, not only because of her infidelity, but also because she attempted to manipulate the situation and gaslight me. She tried to justify her behavior by saying she felt guilty, but if that were the case, she should have made an effort to strengthen our relationship instead of avoiding me. Disgusted and unable to bear her presence any longer, I gathered my belongings and left the house without a word. Since then, I've been staying with a friend, unable to bear the thought of returning to her. She eventually texted me, but her attempts at guilt-tripping and apologies only served to further distance me from her. I wasn't sure what my next steps would be, but at that moment, I was in a bad state of mind. In update 2, I decided to divorce her after learning something more. Following the events from the last post, I stayed with my friend for a few more days. Brenda texted and called me, asking me to return home, but I didn't respond because I couldn't make up my mind about what to do next. My friend suggested that I talk to the friend's husband, who revealed the truth. I found him on social media and requested a meeting. At first, he tried to cover up and apologized, saying he was drunk, but I told him Brenda had confessed to cheating and I wanted to talk to him. I asked him not to tell his wife or Brenda about our conversation, and he agreed. I asked him for details about that day, and initially he was hesitant. However, seeing my condition, he eventually told me everything. It turned out that my wife had cheated on me multiple times during those 2 days of the wedding event. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. She was seen with the groomsmen throughout the 2 days, hanging out, dancing, and flirting. They spent most of the wedding functions together and even stayed in their hotel room. Their closeness was obvious to everyone, with many assuming they were a couple. I asked him if it was true that his friend was interested in Brenda, and he confirmed it. His friend saw Brenda as someone interested in casual hookups because of her behavior that day. This revelation shocked me, as I felt like I never truly knew my wife. I wanted to understand what she was thinking that day, but I realized that seeking closure wasn't worth it after all the drama, especially since she continued to lie and paint herself in a positive light. The meeting helped clear my thoughts, and I became determined to divorce her. I went home during her office hours, packed my belongings, and moved in with my friend. She panicked and called me repeatedly, but I ignored her calls. When the divorce papers reached her, she texted me, asking to meet before signing them. I agreed to meet at a public place. She arrived with red, puffy eyes and tried to plead for another chance. I told her I knew the whole truth, and even though I might have forgiven her if she had confessed everything after returning from the wedding, she instead made my life hell. Even after being exposed, she only confessed half the truth and blamed the other guy. She sobbed and said she quit her job because her colleagues heard about the cheating and were gossiping about it, labeling her as a cheater. I informed her that I had made up my mind, and no amount of tears or pleading would change that. We agreed to separate amicably, and she signed the divorce papers a few days later, vacating the house. We still have some time left on the lease, so I returned to the house, but I'm eager to move out. She took most of her belongings, leaving behind only a few discarded clothes and accessories, and some items we bought together, which now seem pathetic to me. After all that has happened, I can't say I've moved on even an inch, but I'm hopeful for the future. Living alone is much better than living in that toxic environment.